For almost 20 years, Andrew Jennings has loyally served the Australian Army.
Putting on the uniform for the first time was an amazing experience, to feel like you're part of something with a history that has deep roots in service.
But he knows his time is coming to an end.
It's heartbreaking, it really is, but I have hit a point where I can no longer provide effective service. I am unable to function at the level that would be required for my job.
His career took him around the world, training with the School of Infantry and deployed to Iraq. He trained young soldiers in the use of heavy weapons. That's when he became concerned about what the repeated blasts were doing to their brains.
So for me, a lot of blast exposures have been from primarily the 84mm Carl Gustaf.
The need to make every shot count becomes longer range and greater precision.
Firing a Carl Gustaf is not something soldiers easily forget.
Every time the round goes off, it's like getting punched in the head. I can feel the wave, the pressure wave going through all my sinus cavities. I had a headache at the end of the day. I was feeling nauseous, all the classic signs of concussion.
After years of exposure, Andrew Jennings started to notice his personality was changing.
Memory issues, anger issues was becoming a problem for me.
To document his symptoms, he began taking video diaries.
I've been trying to send a text message to my wife. I keep going into the phone and I keep scrolling through looking for my ex-wife's name. Also felt like I was getting lost on the way to work, catching the train. I was also disorientated around my house this morning. Not quite sure where I was.
Most of these people I've been working with for over 12 months. Some of them I've known for over my career for years. And I'm looking around the room and I am struggling to remember their names.
We'll frequently forget basic things. I get disorientated. I can get lost driving to work. I don't recognise my wife. I don't recognise her.
What do you mean when you say you can't recognise your wife?
I will sit there and I'll look at her and it'll take me a moment or two to remember who she is, and then it'll take me another moment or two to remember her name.
Layout. We've got the briefing area, which is where we are currently. Third detail.
Andrew trained young soldiers to use heavy weapons like the Carl Gustaf at ranges like this. Here, two operators are learning to use it. Right next to them is a third person, the safety supervisor, a job Andrew often did. This is the view from their position. This angle shows how close they are to the blast. The pressure of the blast wave hits the safety supervisor's vest.
The blast overpressure essentially creates a shearing force through the whole body. It's so powerful that Australia actually has regulations that limit the firing to 7 rounds per day.
This footage provided by the Australian Army shows the safety measures in place on the range as soldiers carefully log their blast exposure. The responsibility to keep personnel safe sits with this man, the Chief of Army.
In Australia, we have made sure that we have, to the best of our ability, so far as reasonably practicable, reduced the risk in training.
There are limits on how many rounds can be fired a day, including for the Carl Gustaf. And so what's the limit for the safety staff in a 24-hour period?
The maximum is 7, and I think for some of the other rounds, like high explosive, it's only 4.
And you were doing?
46 in 36 hours.
Why were you doing so many?
We had a lot of ammunition to get through. The training had to happen. We were also short on staff, and that's a huge issue.
We need to make sure that those limits that are put in place for the the health and well-being of our people are understood. They are absolutely articulated in the instructions for the conduct of those ranges.
But would you accept like those limits are not being followed or haven't been followed properly always?
Of course I would accept that. We don't live in a perfect world.
Andrew Jennings is trying to continue a normal routine while grappling with his declining health. Doctors have told him he has a traumatic brain injury, likely due to blast exposure. But there's no diagnostic test on a living person that can definitively prove a brain injury is caused by blast.
Unfortunately, the worst part about a lot of these issues with blast overpressure is it will not be found until post-mortem.
He's signed up to donate his brain to research. Since 730's first story on this topic last year, the Australian Veterans Brain Bank has been overwhelmed with support.
And so we're starting the external examination of the brain.
They've now had more than 450 veterans pledge their brains to research after their deaths.
It's got bilateral frontal atrophy, so it looks like it's lost some volume.
What they're looking for is a unique pattern of damage caused by repeated low-level blast exposure.
The definitive diagnosis requires it to be looked at under the microscope. Interface astroglial scarring, or IAS, was described by the US Department of Defense Brain Bank. In all the donors that they found this distinctive pattern of scarring or gliosis, they all had a history of exposure to blasts over a significant period of time.
6 veterans' brains have been donated so far. Some died by suicide. Now scientists have found the first evidence of interface astroglial scarring in an Australian.
I can't really say a lot at this stage, but certainly that donor did have exposure to blasts over a long period of time. Everyone I've spoken to in the neuropathology community understands that there is brain injury associated with blasts that needs to be actioned.
Do you now accept that Australian soldiers have received brain injuries from the low-level repeated blasts from their own weapons in training?
I've always accepted that. I think it's a fact. It's a fact that we learnt more about over time. We've been following this and learning about it since 2010. I'm really keen to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can. One, to prevent illness or injury wherever we can. And two, where someone is injured or becomes ill, that they get the right and the proper treatment that they need.
Paul Scanlon is a former Special Forces officer who now advocates for soldiers exposed to blast. He's been meeting with military and government to push for action.
100% they're not doing enough. They're too slow. It's a leadership issue. You could do something tomorrow. I respect that they are trying to do something, and I get that feedback from people inside the Army, but it's way too slow. I've had calls where people have essentially indicating they are committing suicide, and I've had to call the police to go and intervene.
What's it like to get those calls?
Yeah, this is what... deeply, deeply distressing. Yeah, these people, they don't feel heard. They don't feel looked after.
The Veteran Suicide Royal Commission noted the links between blast exposure and suicide and recommended Defence start a program to investigate the issue.
I'm responsible for the brain injury program as the lead for the Department of Defence, and I'm very happy that we've got that very clear direction to focus time, effort and resources on this matter.
He's directed an expert advisory panel to develop a plan to cognitively baseline soldiers and track their blast exposure over their career. I've spoken to lots of veterans who've struggled with their brain health linked to blast exposure. They feel like the Army's known this has been an issue for over a decade and not enough has been done. What's your message to those soldiers?
I think the issue that they've felt let down about is probably twofold. One, we haven't moved fast enough. I'm doing everything I can to shift that along. But I want to make sure we're doing the right things. Secondly, it's been very difficult for them to be able to get a diagnosis and to link that to their service. And that's why we're working with DVA to make sure that we are sort of smoothing out that transition. If you're still serving, then you can get help.
For now, Andrew Jennings is trying to work out what his future will look like. Last week, he was told he was medically unfit for duty.
I've had diagnosis of PTSD, major depressive disorder, persistent suicidality. That saw me admitted to the Alfred Critical Care Unit.
You're still serving. What does it mean for you to sort of speak out about this?
I'm expecting a lot of pushback on this. My career is over anyway. I physically cannot continue to serve despite my desire to do so.
And why is it so important to you that you do speak out?
Because this is an issue that is affecting a huge numbers of defence members. It's affecting me, it's affecting my wife, it affects my family. And this is not just affecting those people nearer to me, but it's affecting my peers, it's affecting those people that are coming through below me. It is a big problem.
And if you're a veteran or serving member and you or your family need help, you can call the organisation Open Arms on 1800 011 046.